Hi everyone, it's Logan here, and I decided to bring you this video about how the Intel architecture has increased quite substantially its processing power per clock, or instructions per clock. So this is my media center PC. I've shown you that before. It is a Pentium 4 3.06 gigahertz hyperthreading, overclocked to around 3.5 gigahertz, about a 13% overclock. So I'm going to go ahead and run W prime here, both 32M and 1024M, and then I'll show you my daily driver computer at the same clock speed, and we'll see how much better it is. So the results of my Pentium 4 are in. So we're seeing 3.48 gigahertz on this Pentium 4, and with W prime we have a score of 32 million is 83.8 seconds, and with 1024M we have 2,633 seconds. Not great. But what I'm going to do now is go on to my daily driver, which has a Core i7-980X. So granted, that is now about 4 years old, but I'm going to tune it down to 3.5 gigahertz, 3.485, as close as I can get it, and get the memory, the RAM, going as low as possible. I think the RAM on here is going at about 300 megahertz. I won't be able to get it that low, but I'll get it as low as possible, and I'll be back in a second to show you that. Alright, so I'm back with my main PC, and I want to show you what I've done. So it is a Core i7-980X, and normally it runs at 3.3 gigahertz, as you can see, but I've nerfed it to have the same numbers as the Pentium 4. So multiplier of 23 times, bus speed 151, so core speed 3485. So that's the same. And one thing I couldn't do too much of with was the memory. So North Bridge frequency, that has to be at least twice the RAM frequency, and of course it's DDR, so it's twice this. So 454 times 2 is what, 910. So it's 910 megahertz, which is about 3 times what the memory was on the Pentium 4. However, I've compensated for that by having about 3 times the clock speed. So instead of CL2.5, I think, or CL3, I'm CL9. So that should be running at approximately the same. The scores here: 31.3 and 974. So about 40% of the time that it took with the other one. So even though the speed is exactly the same, the processors are doing about 2.5 times the either instructions per clock or the total computational power. Oh, I've also brought it down to only, if you can see, only one core hyper-threaded. There we go. So they are substantially the same. And then just for fun, I decided, yeah, let's try and reduce the graphics card. So I do have 2 GTX 580s in SLI, but I disabled the SLI, reduced the core clock, so that's the same, 520. The memory clock, the lowest I could go was 1,000. Normally I have it well over 2,000. The other PC, that was down to about 300. So, but there's nothing I could do about that. But 3D Marks, 12,000. So that tells you how far the graphics cards have come. If you remember from my previous video, the graphics cards were the one graphics card, which was a GeForce 7600 GT, only had about 1560 marks, and this has over 12,000. So hope that gives some insight as to how far they've come, even clock for clock, It's doing about 2.5 times as much power, and of course, or as much computational ability with the CPUs, and of course the graphics cards, that's like 8 times more. Oh, one final thing, I restored everything back to normal, 4.2 gigahertz, 6 cores, with hyperthreading each, all the RAMs back up, etc., etc. This is the difference, 29,000 3D marks, and 6.6 seconds for the 32M, and 135 seconds for the 1024M, so big difference there. But thanks for checking it out. Don't forget to subscribe. Have a great day.